Hello and welcome to an encore episode of the Clean Energy Show. I'm Brian Stockton, recovering from surgery. And as long as I didn't leave a junior mint inside me, we will be back next week.
Are you sure you're recovering? I mean, there's a risk to all surgery. Is it 0.5? Is it 1%? I mean, all surgery has risks. Do you really know that you're recovering? You could be gone.
I guess it remains to be seen.
Okay. Tune in next week to find out. And now, our encore episode.
Hello and welcome to episode 166 of the Clean Energy Show. I'm Brian Stockton.
And I'm James Whittingham. Welcome to the program. A new study has found that climate scientists, especially those that are women, are facing increasing death threats. Still less death threats than the planet gets. Nevertheless, the climate scientists vow to persist.
In a shocking move, Ford has announced that they will adopt the Tesla charging port on their upcoming cars in North America. A spokesperson from Toyota was overheard saying, "What's a charging network? Do we need one of those?"
Siemens has designed an onshore wind turbine just for the U.S. market. It fires off a gun every 30 seconds and watches baseball.
The reopening of an exploded coal power plant in Australia has been delayed by 6 months. Here's a thought. Maybe don't rebuild a coal plant that exploded. Come on, Australia, get it together.
All that and a whole lot more on this week's edition of the Clean Energy Show.
Okay, so I got an update on the heat pump, which is that it's not quite installed yet.
Oh, that's a terrible uptate.
Yeah.
What went
We're
wrong?
getting close. Progress has been made.
There's more drilling that has to take place. What have they run into now?
Yeah, well, the electrician's got to come in, so I think a lot of the basics are done, but they still have to haul the old furnace is not disconnected yet, so we were hoping it would be done before we headed off on our vacation, but no, and of course, it's getting hot and humid too, so it would have been nice to have the air conditioning today.
Yeah.
And yesterday as well. Anyway, I looked at the brochure for the heat pump that I've got. It said, I think we talked about this, it's for some reason they're more efficient to do air conditioning. So the brochure says the cooling efficiency is up to 4 times more efficient than a normal air conditioner. And I asked the installer guy why, and I'd heard that before, like, you buy yourself a nice heat pump like this, it cools your house, but it does it more efficiently than a normal air conditioner. And the guy installing it had a, really fantastic long explanation that was so good I didn't understand a word of it. I really
no.
I didn't know what he was talking about.
But that's good that he knew. I mean, most guys would just say, "Oh, I don't know. It's just that's what some pamphlet said."
But there's complicated physics involved or something.
Physics, you say? I
mean, I think the idea is that in order to heat the house, especially down to minus 20, that it just has to be built more robust. It's just, they're more robust mechanisms than a normal air conditioner.
More efficient, perhaps.
I think just the fact that it has to do the heating and the cooling means that it works better and more efficiently as an air conditioner.
Interesting. Well, there you go. That's another advantage to heat pumps that I bet a lot of people, if you did know that, raise your hand. No one's raising their hand in the audience. So, yeah, that's an interesting fact. They're more efficient for cooling.
Of course, it was one of the reasons I never got air conditioning in this house is I sort of thought, well, we don't need it. We don't have that many hot days. But I also thought, well, I don't want to use a whole bunch of extra electricity. So it just feels good that we're going to cool the house, but it'll be more efficient than a normal air conditioner. So, yeah, I'm off to the United Kingdom this week. On Thursday, we're heading up on a trip, on a vacation. And
Brian, did you know we're bigger in the United Kingdom than we are in Canada, the country that we podcast from?
I was noticing that, yes. In the science and nature category of Apple Podcasts, we're doing quite well in Great Britain. So hello to all of our listeners in Great Britain.
Yes, and I assume the king is listening.
If you see me wandering around the streets with my Clean Energy Show cap on, say hello.
And T-shirt I see now. You've got a T-shirt.
Oh, yes, and the T-shirt. These are the Clean Energy Show T-shirts.
Very nice.
Looks fantastic. I'm going to bring that with me as well. They're great. Love them.
Okay. So where are you going to be in the UK?
Yeah. So we're flying into London, but we're going to go up to Wales. So that's where I'm hoping to podcast from is Portmeirion, Wales. It's a seaside town there. And we're going to go then across on a ferry to Dublin for a few days and then back to London. So, yeah, hopefully the show should be coming out at roughly the regular time next week, assuming everything works. I'm 99% sure I can podcast from Wales. And then after that, I guess we're going to take a week off.
Our first satellite international production of the Clean Energy Show. As far as I know, I don't remember any other. We've had 165 of them. My God. That's cool. I look forward to that and the exciting, unpredictability of it. I thrive on it. I love that stuff. Good luck with your trip. And if you do see Brian, say hi. And if you see him, it'll be, you've run into listeners on airports before, so who knows?
Who knows? It's possible.
So what can you say about the Clean Energy Show t-shirt? We've talked about the hats before, which, by the way, we're hoping to get back online in a week or two.
Yeah, they're excellent, high-quality shirts. They're 100% cotton. There's a couple of different colors available. This is like the navy blue. There's also like a light blue and something, I forget what else, but highly recommended.
Oh, yeah, it looks okay. I'm looking at you on a Skype, and it looks pretty good from where you are, so that's good. I should order some too, they seem to work out well. If you have a Clean Energy Show t-shirt, tell us what you think of it. I wonder if the logo's too big, but it doesn't seem to be. Brian says it's okay.
I think it's fine, yeah.
So a programming note, I guess, is we'll be back next week with a normal show, except Brian will be far away and speaking with a slight British accent, which you'll probably pick up, or a Wales accent.
Yeah.
And then the week after that, we'll have a repeat episode. I'll probably throw up a repeat episode onto the feed just to keep you occupied, because I know a lot of people don't listen to our shows over the holiday season in North America. Maybe that'll throw up our year-end show or something like that again and have a chance to listen to it. Yeah, but then we'll be back in 2 weeks with another new show. Brian, we had an unexpected storm here where we live in Canada, and it was the first storm warning we've had without a watch. There was no weather watch.
Yeah.
The storm just came up and did nasty things. Well, not too nasty, but it flooded streets, and that was kind of the issue. And also the fact that there was a tornado.
Tornado
actually
touchdown.
Hit just outside our city, and we had tornado warnings on our cell phones. And I looked at it, I thought I was disregarding, because we'd had so many tornado warnings last year. Yeah. And they were far away because of the way the cell tower worked.
Yeah, no, this one was pretty close to my house, just a few kilometers away.
And it said south going northeast. So I actually told the kids to lock everything up and congregate, because this was a serious matter. And there was some swearing involved too. So it was a bit weird. And I told my son to go upstairs, because we have a 2-story house overlooking a field, to look for the thing, to see if he saw anything. So he was on lookout, because we knew where it was. Anyway, the storm came without warning. Well, it came with a warning at the last second, but without watch, I guess.
Well, apparently one of the weather radars
Yes,
was
the radar's
down.
always out. It drives my weather geek family crazy that's always out. I don't know if lightning hits it or gophers eat the wires, but, something happens. And our streets were flooded.
Yeah. And I was out at a movie at our nearby mall. And so we came out of the movie, and it was pouring rain. We had to run to the car. We drove home. It was probably the worst visibility I've ever had in a rainstorm. Like, with the wipers going full speed, it was very difficult to see anything in front of me. The water was coming down so fast.
That would have been the perfect situation you drive a Tesla Model 3. It would have been the perfect situation for the Summon feature, the Summon it right up to the door of the movie.
We thought about using it, actually, but the car was parked around the corner of the building, so we couldn't see it from where we were. But if we could have seen it from where we were, I would have used it.
But question, would the car have seen well enough in a torrential downpour?
Yeah, actually, that's true. It does degrade the visibility.
See, that's disappointing. That's the time when you need it most.
That's the time you need it.
I always fantasize about doing that coming out, and that's what I tell people is that, the reason you would use it is when you come at a movie theater or come pick you up in a torrential rainstorm. Well, maybe it's just a rainstorm would work. But anyway, we got a lot of floods on the north part of the city where I live. And we drove around, and the streets our street was flooded. We live at a high point on our street, thankfully. But the end of our street was a low point, and it always floods, I guess. So I'm told. I've been here for 13, 14 years, and I'm still learning things. But anyway, we drove around and went through some water in the electric car. And then we saw the main street that connects our little subdivision was flooded. And there's not a lot of ways in and out. But next storm, when we're running away from a tornado, we know which way not to go because that flooded. And there was 5 cars stuck, 5 idiot people stuck in the water.
But if I could say in their defense, like I said, like the visibility was so poor when I was driving through it, I could have easily driven into a lake and I wouldn't have known.
Well, somebody yelled and help, and my kids got out of the car and ran into the water.
Oh, wow.
And they were just yelling help. People were all pissed off and frantic. So it wasn't really a frantic call, but they were frantic because they were, panicking that they'd wrecked their cars. And so they were calling for other people to help them push out. So my kids went through into the cold water. And then I found out that manhole covers were being blown off. So you don't want to walk, you don't want to drive in water where you can't see the bottom, and you don't want to walk in water where the manhole cover might be blown off. Yes. And there was, my son, the city worker, said, well, I went on the sidewalk. But when you go to push the car, you go onto the road, and there was manhole covers near the sidewalk on that particular street. I don't know if there normally is, but on that street there is. So that would be a bad way to go. Brian, the Ford has made an announcement that is one of the big pivotal points in the adoption of electric vehicles. There's a few markers along the way. I would count them as this is one of the major ones, and we haven't had one for a while. Tesla releasing the Model 3, Volkswagen deciding to go all EV, and the Inflation Reduction Act makes a big difference. There's lots of other things before that because we've been watching this for 20 years, you and I. But this is a big deal. Do you want to explain what the deal is with this, what Ford announced with Elon Musk on a Twitter Spaces that caught everyone by surprise?
Yeah, so Ford has announced that they're going to adopt the Tesla charging connection for their vehicles in North America. So there's 2 major standards left in terms of charging connectors for cars. So Europe decided to standardize on the CCS connector. So they passed that as a law several years ago. I think there were initially some Tesla cars that were sold in Europe with the North American Tesla connector, but quickly the EU got their act together and said, no, we need a universal standard. So it's CCS in Europe, which is a bigger, larger, fatter connector. In North America, there has been no official standard set. So at this point, Tesla's kind of the default leader just because they have the most electric cars out there and they have the most electric car charging stations. It's, of course, one of the biggest problems if you're trying to sell electric vehicles like Ford is trying to do. Ford is legitimately trying to sell electric vehicles, but they don't have a charging network like Tesla does. So it's a major strike against them if you're looking at electric cars. So they have decided to adopt the Tesla connector. They're going to start with access for Ford cars in 2024 by use of an adapter. And I don't know if that will be supplied by Tesla or supplied by Ford.
It's going to be manufactured by Tesla. That much I know. And I think Ford then, notifies people to go to the dealership to pick it up or perhaps even mails it to them. I don't know. Probably not.
Yeah. But then in 2025, the Ford cars will have the Tesla charging port in them. And this is a huge deal. So it feels like a North American standard is maybe starting to come together here. We speculated about this a while ago because Tesla, sometime in the last year, they made their connecting charger standard public. And instead of calling it the Tesla connector, it's the NACS, the North American Charging Standard. And they made it open so anybody could adopt it if they wanted to. We speculated at the time that, it's probably too late. People have been going down the road of CCS. There's lots of CCS chargers, not as many as Tesla chargers, but, lots of cars have been made. So at the time we speculated, probably nobody else is going to jump on this, but Ford is the number 2 seller of electric vehicles in North America after Tesla, and they have decided to adopt this connector. So I think it'd be great if this did become the North American standard, because it would certainly be better if there was only one connector instead of 2. And of course, the Tesla connector, I think, is the better one. It's just much smaller. It's neater. The CCS connector, it's very large, and it's large because it has kind of DC on the bottom and then AC on the top, because you need both for your car. So if you're charging it at home, you use AC power. You're charging in a fast charger, it's always DC power. So the CCS connector, it's in 2 different sections. And that's why the connector is so big. But, many years ago, like 10 years ago, Tesla figured out, no, you can just do it with 2 pins. And somehow it handles AC and DC with the same small connector with 2 big pins. I don't know. I think this is great. Do you think the other car makers are going to chime in on this and adopt it?
I'm, of course, hopeful they will. Somebody said on Twitter to us that it doesn't matter. The connector doesn't matter. Just the charging network is what matters. Having said that, when we did do our one test supercharging with our new Chevrolet Bolt, my wife couldn't get that big connector in.
On the CCS.
Yeah, she couldn't get the big CCS. It's big and it's unwieldy. It's not a gas station gas pump. It's a big, heavy, awkward thing that you have to point in the right direction and push it in. And it seems such a terrible design compared to Tesla, which is a fraction of the size, which is, even more elegant than my level 2 home connector. What do you call it? The J77. I forget what it is, but there's a number there. That's kind of the standard home charging connector. So I would love to see it. I would love to, if Chevy goes, it's over, because they're the number 3 EV maker. And, when General Motors, if they adopted it, and I hope they do, it's such a, Tesla has been offering this possibility for years. They've publicly said, if anybody wants to jump on board, maybe the terms weren't right. Maybe it was too hard for their brand to take, but this is a great thing. And, Tesla may not be standing one day. Who knows? Maybe they'll go broke on robots, but their charging network will be ubiquitous, hopefully. And that'll be a major important thing. And they work, Brian. They work all the time.
But of course, just wind back 5 years, everybody still thought Tesla was going bankrupt. So why would you adopt the Tesla charging standard if they're just going to go bankrupt? But I think the other important aspect of this is they're not just using the connector. They're talking to Tesla and they're cooperating with Tesla to get access to everything, because it isn't just the connector. And like I said, it's now an open standard. Anybody, you could pick up the plans for the open standard and, put a Tesla connector on your electric bike if you wanted to. Everybody can do that. But it's not just that. It's the software that's part of it. So Ford is going to work with Tesla so that the whole charging experience is very similar, because the great thing about the Tesla, it's not just, the connector and everything, but you put a destination into the navigation, it does all the routing, and including the supercharger stops and how long you have to wait there for. This is not a thing with cars other than Tesla. So if Ford has access to the whole system, then it should be just as seamless. And the Ford cars are not going to use the Tesla app. This is what's being used currently. Like, there's a few magic dock connectors, so you can go to some Tesla charging stations and they have a CCS adapter built into the charger. Use the Tesla app on your phone, and then you can charge with CCS at a few select stations. But that's not the whole experience. That's the Tesla app. But Ford is going to integrate that into the Ford app, the Ford car, the Ford operating system. So it should be fairly seamless for the Ford users.
Yeah, and it's unclear whether they'll pay a premium, but hopefully it won't be much. Musk only said that it would be affordable. And reasonably priced. So the experience, hopefully for Ford owners, it's not just the fact that those chargers are available, but they're plug and charge, right? The Tesla experience is plug in. It knows who you are because of your car talking to the machine, and then it'll bill your account. That is so much because people have trouble just making the payments. A lot of the reasons these chargers don't work is the payment part of it. Like, it's not accepting the credit card, it's not accepting the app or the chip on your phone or whatever. So there's just a great opportunity here. And who could take advantage of that? Toyota. Toyota could get right back into this thing if they said, okay, all of our cars are going to have Tesla chargers, and giddy up, because it's a huge advantage. I mean, if Teslas were a bit cheaper, I would have bought one just for the supercharging network, because that is so important. If you're going to leave the city, you're going to leave where you live, it's way better to have a Tesla because those networks are there. Now, having said that, what's going to happen to Tesla owners if they're going to have to really keep building the supercharger network fast, increase the pace of that?
Yeah, well, they put out a tweet the other day that says that they're opening a new Tesla charging station somewhere in the world every 13 hours. So they are going fast. They're going hard. It may not be fast enough in some cases, but they got such a huge lead in North America. Like the number of Ford electric cars compared to the number of Tesla electric cars is still very, very small. So I don't anticipate any problems.
It's just those long weekends, those long weekends where it's already busy. And if you have to wait for a Mustang Mach-E instead of a Tesla, you might be a little irked.
Yeah.
But they also have a good sort of idea of what stations are busy and where the demand is. You were saying that when you went to Calgary, that it was a worse situation than here in our small city, just because we were late to get them. We got the version 3s and they have the version 2s there.
Yeah.
And it's hard to believe that a city of, 1.5 million people or something now? Like
they only had 8 version 2 chargers. But this is where you mentioned Toyota.
And it's a big tourist center too. It's by the Rocky Mountains and Banff National Park and everything.
But you mentioned Toyota. This could actually end up to be a huge benefit for Toyota because they're so late to the game. They might as well use the Tesla standard because they've invested nothing into CCS.
And they have worked with Tesla before. 20 years ago, they came up with a RAV4 that was made by Tesla. The electric motor was. So they should really get on that, and that would be it. I'd love to see it. I don't know what this means for all the people who are investing in third-party chargers. There's all kinds of, there's expos for charging, there's a lot of companies making a lot of chargers, but they're finicky and they take a long time to prove, and the Tesla's got it down. They've got it down. They've got manufacturing where they manufacture the whole thing, even the cement platform, and that goes out on a truck and it's ready to install very quickly.
Yeah. And yes, there's a lot of CCS chargers out there that would probably go to waste if we ended up switching over to the Tesla connector in North America. But since they don't work that well anyway, it's like, maybe let's cut our losses and just switch right now. That'd be great for me.
It's nice to have options, but my goodness, the Chatamo is on the Nissan Leafs and I think one other vehicle. And they're still at the chargers. They're still there. They'll still have a connector there. Yeah,
and of course there's adapters too. So adapters, like in the future, we can put Tesla adapters on the CCS chargers and still make some use of them, I guess.
That's true too. Yeah. But it's not, somebody was pointing out, it's not that hard to change the connector on a charger. That's a small part of the puzzle. Like you've got giant cabinets connected to the grid, which turn the power on and off and regulate the power. Then you've got the charger stalls themselves, the cable and the connector, not so much a big part of it. So it would be easy. They have to be replaced anyway, right? Because of just use and wear and tear. That maybe that's not the end of the world. So we'll see. But they are pretty big. Have you ever used one? I guess you probably haven't.
No, I haven't.
No, they're nasty business. Well, you've never used one to charge your Tesla with an adapter?
No, I don't have the adapter, so.
Really? How much is the adapter?
It's just a couple $100, but my Tesla is a bit older, so it's actually needs some kind of an update before it can use the adapter.
Like a hardware update that you have to go to the shop and pay for?
It says if I try to buy the adapter, it says, oh, sorry, your car's not compatible, but we're planning to do upgrades in the future.
Well, I still think that Tesla's going to continue to get that sweet, sweet IRA money to, have those magic docks come out in the future.
Yeah.
That's going to keep happening. Anyway, it's a huge story. It is, we'll see, what comes next because, Chevrolet or GM in general have a lot of new EVs coming. They've got the Silverado pickup truck. There's a good opportunity there. It's not made yet, and it's not that big of a deal, I don't think, to change the, maybe it is, but, these are opportunities here. People should be.
It's a real sign that Ford is serious. They really want to sell EVs. And I think the other legacy automakers, they maybe haven't come around to the fact that they actually have to make EVs, and they still feel they don't necessarily really want to. But Ford, the number 2 position, they really want to sell EVs, and this deal is definitely, shows that that's true.
I wish Rivian did. I wish Rivian did that too. Because I'm thinking, why is this small company building out a charging network they're starting from the scratch like Tesla did, but they also didn't whenever RJ, whatever his name is, the CEO, Schrödinger, never liked to talk about Tesla. He never wanted to be compared in interviews to Tesla. So he kind of always politely avoided that. But, if you did that, it would have been a huge advantage for Rivian. People would have flocked to Rivian a lot quicker. And they're only just starting to build out their supercharger, their adventure network, as it were, close to national parks and things like that. But they're not in the parks. They're actually many miles away from the parks in a lot of cases, not in the parks. So if you just went with Tesla, you could just have the Tesla network as it is and as it expands and put your own branded chargers with the Tesla adapter in those adventure locations, whether they be parks or just places where people go for adventure. I don't know where that is because James doesn't get a lot of adventure, unfortunately. Anyway, let's get on with the show. A new study has found that climate scientists, especially those that are women, are facing increasing death threats and attacks online. This is from Vice News. Almost 3/4 of climate scientists who appear in the media every month, these are people who are regularly going on TV and quoted in newspapers and so forth. They have experienced online abuse, and women are bearing the brunt of it. A new Global Witness report has found climate scientists have had their credibility and work attacked, and they received death threats, witnessed even their family members being exposed to the vitriol. And we found online abuse, they say, is common, and for many, it takes a mental health and a physical toll on them. It inhibits the climate discourse, which is a problem, and which is what they want to do. So online hate could inspire climate scientists to stay out of the public eye at a time when climate action is more urgent than ever. And for women, the attacks are also quite targeted. Isn't that true for so many things these days? And it's just, Brian, I don't know about the world. I sit here as an old man, middle-aged man, feeling like an old man. And I don't know about the world. I mean, a lot of people don't. A lot of people, younger people don't. And sometimes they vote for Trump when they feel that way. And sometimes they, become reactionary haters on Twitter.
Well, first of all, you're older than middle age.
Where's middle age?
I know, but you're past it.
Oh,
you're
damn it. I'm hurtling toward, I can't eat off the seniors' menu at Denny's now, so officially. So, and I do.
And I will say, I don't think we've ever received any death threats. We do occasionally get nasty comments from people. I guess especially on the TikTok video, a lot of nasty comments on there. But we don't engage in that. So.
You read the comments? Have you read the comments?
You did. You told me.
Oh, well, I don't read them anymore. I'm too old for that. I've got a life I have to live. Precious days left of it. I'm not going to read vitriol on Twitter. But people argue, the more is some of the things on TikTok that take off or when people get into arguments in the comment section, and that makes it suddenly there's a million views because it's a hot topic.
Yes,
even
it's
though
a wedge issue. Something
about, California banning gas lawnmowers or something like that. It's wokeism at its worst. Yeah, California has a big influence on the rest of the world. It's amazing. So more than a third of affected women said their sex or gender have been brought up, and only 3% of men have had that brought up. A fifth of affected women have received threats of physical violence, and 13% of affected women have received threats of sexual violence. Classy. Yeah, so my point is, race, of course, plays a factor as well, but my point is, hug a climate scientist today, respect what they do, like their tweets, give them positive algorithmic feedback, and let's be thankful that they exist because they are continuing. They're not. It's too important. It's literally life and death of the planet.
Which reminds me of the song that we played on the podcast a couple of years ago from our friends in Australia. That song was a sort of a tribute to scientists. Speaking of Australia, let's move on to more Australian news. No more ignoring our Australian listeners. So this is a story about a coal plant in Australia, and the story is from Renew Economy. The return to service of the Callide C coal-fired power station in Queensland, which exploded in dramatic circumstances 2 years ago, has been delayed by another 6 months.
How do coal plants explode? I know how coal mines explode, but how do coal plants explode?
The turbine,
water pressure too high.
The turbine
steam?
Exploded for some reason.
Okay.
But it's been delayed by another 6 months because one of the cooling towers collapsed.
Really?
Yeah. So This is just a terrible idea. It's going to cost around $400 million to bring this exploding coal plant back online. So this was back in May 2021. The turbine suddenly exploded, an event blamed on the failure of the generator protection systems. So maybe it was spinning too fast or something. The accident-prone facility suffered further woes last October when the cooling tower of Unit C3 partially collapsed, leading to an investigation that concluded both the C3 and C4 towers needed to be demolished and rebuilt. So it's now won't be operational till July. This means that the repaired coal unit will be back online after the new Chinchilla battery, a 100 megawatt, 200 megawatt hour facility that began construction last year, but is going to be finished before these ridiculous repairs of the ridiculous coal power station.
Brian, I think people who don't listen to our show don't get it. They don't get it. It's pretty simple. Solar, wind, batteries, fast, simple, cheap.
$400 million to repair this coal station.
That's going to be shut down because all coal plants are going to be shut down. It is the law of the world.
Like at least if it was a natural gas plant, you could maybe make an argument for spending the money. But for coal, I mean, this is ridiculous. They're basically
money out the window.
Illegal any day now.
Siemens has designed an onshore wind turbine just for the United States market. This is from Electric, specifically designed for U.S. weather conditions, which apparently is different than European weather conditions and other people's weather conditions. Harnessing the wind conditions most common in the United States and features a design lifetime longer than the industry standard. Quote, with a country the size of the United States, we take into account the unique challenges of onshore wind sites from coast to coast, including, this is interesting, it's a vast country, transportation costs. So that's got to play into it. Logistics as well when you're transporting to the site from the manufactured place. I understand that. Varied wind conditions and environments, electrical and power delivery requirements, which are different than the rest of the world, and the IRA incentives, which means you have to manufacture parts of it or all of it in the United States. So
yeah, well, we've often talked about wind turbines are often built where they're needed, right? Because they're so ridiculously large. So I suspect that these ones are not the biggest ones, but they're taking the transportation into account because they're going to have to deploy these all over the U.S. Yeah, so EV tax credits in Colorado. I thought I would just mention this in case we have any listeners in Colorado interested in buying an electric car. They've really upped their EV tax credits. So if your EV has an MSRP up to $80,000, you can get a tax credit of $5,000. If it's under $35,000, then you can get $2,500 of a tax credit. So when you add this to the federal tax credit, this is a massive, massive savings. So there's an example here. This is from Electrek that a Tesla Model Y long range dual motor all-wheel drive is $50,000 basically, $50,490. So if you add the federal and the Colorado tax credit, that gets the price down to $37,990 for a long-range Tesla Model Y in Colorado. So that's $12,500.
Something like the Chevy Bolt would be basically free.
Yeah, basically
$16,500 or $17,000 or something like that. I mean, the lease payments on that would be affordable for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Especially if you get a good lease arrangement. And even, like a Nissan Leaf, we were talking many, many shows ago about the idea that, a high school student could get a lease for a Leaf in some places for $100 a month, which would be what they'd maybe spend on gas.
Yep.
On a crappy old jalopy that they'd have to fix. And you could have cruise around in a brand new car.
Yeah, do some Ubering on the side to pay for it.
Do some Ubering on the side. Exactly. It's time for the tweet of the week. This is from Mark Jacobson, climate researcher. And this is getting back to bad ideas. Georgia's, in the USA, Georgia, the state, its Vogtle nuclear reactor will never pay off the CO2 and pollution emissions it has already caused to be emitted into the atmosphere. Since not only it allowed 15 to 18 years of such emissions being put back into the atmosphere by delaying things, it prevented construction of 6 to 7 times the energy output equivalent of wind, water, and solar. So you could have got 6 to 7 times the output of other things for the same price, and they delayed that because it took 18 years. You could have put that money into it over the 15 to 18 years. So it's $35 billion for 2.23 gigawatts, and the nuclear is 15.7 million per megawatt. That's not megawatt hours, that's just per output. Viz 1 million per megawatt for new wind and solar. So it's, I mean, if it were equal, you would say, hey, let's do the other because it's faster. If for no other reason, nuclear safety aside. So 6 to 7 times the cost per kilowatt hour is wind and solar. So that's just, and also 18 to 19 years from plan to operation that was. Didn't intend to be that way, but that's what it worked out to be. But it's always 1 to 3 years for wind and solar. So the grid could have benefited from having all that CO2 removed many, many years ago.
Yeah, I think we've said this before. If there's existing nuclear, keep it running. But if you're building new nuclear, all you're really doing is delaying the deployment of, solar, wind, batteries, things that are cheaper, quicker, work better. Even on the shorter time frame, we discussed this at one point, 6 to 8 years is more the norm for how long it takes to build a nuclear power plant. But that's 6 to 8 years of carbon emissions from whatever you're replacing. If you're, coal, natural gas, whatever, this is ridiculous. We can't stop delaying this anymore.
And there's downtime for repairs that cut the whole thing off. You can segmentize, wind and solar farms. And if you have to do repairs on the whole thing, doesn't have to go online. So that's just one advantage.
Okay, so we've got a story here from Bloomberg about ads that have been banned in the UK. Hello to the UK. I will be there next week or later this week.
The Clean Energy Show UK tour.
Oh, we're going to have to do tour t-shirts. But anyway, I think we've reported on this before in the past, is that the Advertising Standards Authority every once in a while will force advertisers to take down basically ads that are greenwashing. So there's a whole new round. This article has 6 different ads that have been banned for greenwashing. So I've got a couple of examples here, which I highlighted, and then the highlighting disappeared. Okay, so one is from Lufthansa. So they've got an ad campaign called Make Change Fly. Lufthansa last year debuted an ad that featured the slogan, "Connecting the world, protecting its future." And the Advertising Standards Authority ruled in March that the ad could not run in the UK because there are currently no environmental initiatives or commercially viable technologies in the aviation industry that would substantiate that absolute green claim.
Greenwashing is bad enough at the best of times, but having absolutely nothing?
Yeah. So
you're not even offering anything.
They are not protecting the future.
What are they recycling? Their pudding that they give you on the plane? Using plastic forks no more? I mean, what's going on? That's such bogus nonsense.
Yeah. So banks are another one. So HSBC has been slapped as well. Like many big banks, HSBC has been the target of widespread criticism for its funding of oil and gas projects. A poster advert that ran in 2021 sought to address these concerns by publicizing a goal to provide up to $1 trillion in financing and investment globally to help our clients transition to net zero. This is the message on their advertising. But Ad-Free Cities, a group of UK groups, complained, and they argued that the HSBC continues to fund polluting industries. The Advertising Standards Authority agreed that most consumers would not know that. So sure, maybe they are funding clean projects, but they're also funding dirty projects. So they've got to put that on the poster.
I hate greenwashing. I watch TV. I see the oil industry doing it. There's usually a ukulele to make you feel happy about what they're talking about. And I want to throw things at my TV screen because I know I'm being lied to.
Yeah.
I don't know that there's any people with actual green credentials that have advertised, like I'd like to see something what is the best example that they've actually done something useful. They're not just BS because it's all crap and it drives me crazy.
This podcast is supported by Talkspace.
When my husband came home from his military deployment, readjusting was hard for all of us. Thankfully, I found Talkspace.
Talkspace provides professional support from licensed therapists and psychiatric providers online. Military members, veterans, and their dependents ages 13 and older can get fast access to providers, all from the privacy of their computers or smartphones.
I just answered a few questions online and Talkspace matched me with a therapist. We meet when it's convenient for me, and I can message her anytime. It was so easy to set up, and they accept TRICARE. Therapy was going so well, my husband and I started seeing a couples therapist through Talkspace too.
Talkspace works with most major insurers, including TRICARE. Match with a licensed therapist today at Talkspace.com/military. Go to Talkspace.com/military to get started today. That's Talkspace.com/military.
Time for the lightning round.
The lightning round is a fast-paced look at the latest headlines in climate, clean energy, and transportation.
Taiwan legislatures require all newly built, expanded, or altered structures that meet specific conditions to have rooftop solar panels incorporated into the building's design and installed on them. Good for you, Taiwan. Hopefully, China doesn't come and take them away. Oh, that's maybe too soon. So I didn't want to get political, but there.
Yeah.
So screw you, China. I know you're listening. I know that white van in front of my house has somebody in it from the Chinese government spying on me. Power prices dipped to negative in Europe for why? Okay, low demand combined with sunny conditions and malt water. And that's lifted hydropower to really high levels and solar power production. So yeah, what they do when they have too much energy, they pay people to use it.
Yeah, and we've, talked about overnight rates in some places that are super low to charge your car. Well, when the power prices go negative, they pay you to charge your car, which is amazing.
Usually it's industry that can use a large chunk of stuff, but this is going to happen a lot more often. We need to get lots more storage in place to not need this, but, your factory might do an extra shift because there's free power because of a sunny forecast one of these days as we transition to a full green grid. United States oil and gas giant Chevron has acknowledged its flagship carbon capture and storage project off Australia's northwest coast. Australia again, hello Australia, is operating at just a third of its capacity. This is problems always seem to bedevil the carbon capture world, Brian. And of course, that leads us to be skeptical of the whole thing. It is the largest carbon capture facility in the world. Britain's opposition party. Hello again, Britain. Stay tuned for the Clean Energy Show tour. We have to write wherever you go on the back of the T-shirts. It's going to be an extra expense, but, Wales, where else are you going? Anywhere outside of London other than Wales?
Dublin. We're going to Dublin.
Well, that's only 3 things then. Well, go somewhere else. We need a list. We need there's got to be a list or it looks dumb.
Okay.
No, there's been small tours that have T-shirts that with them. And just
sure.
Sure. Yeah, we can do that. The Clean Energy Show Britain tour. UK extravaganza. Britain's opposition party and likely the next government, according to polls, confirmed it will block all new domestic oil and gas if it wins power. Yay for them. Invest heavily in renewables instead, they say. So to invest in the green jobs of the future and to bring bills down, which is a good selling point if you're a politician. It's time for a CS Fast. California's $3.6 trillion economy is bigger than India's economy. Did you know that? That's incredible.
Wow, that's amazing.
Considering, what's India? Just to hit 1 billion people or something like that?
Oh, it's over 1 billion, yep.
And yeah, well, that's economy is also growing too to catch up to what first world economies are. From electric, the U.S. built offshore wind substation is sailing to New York. So in offshore substations, they collect and stabilize power that the wind turbines generate. This is, these big boxes you see around power things. You don't know what they do, but they're there. They need to be there. They're floating the thing from Texas all the way up to the north coast of the United States, northeast coast. It's 60 feet tall and was designed and engineers in Kansas near Corpus Christi. It was built, and this by an offshore services company, which is the largest fabricator of offshore stuff in the United States. Headline in the Ottawa Citizen, Brian, look out for this. Killer whales appear to be teaching each other how to sink boats. This is not The Onion. This is a real newspaper. So if people, in fact, that nature is indeed turning on us, I want you to have heard it here first. So that's why I included that. Since the IRA became law, companies have announced at least 31 new battery manufacturing projects in the United States. That was 9 months ago when we
Wow.
Had that shocking news of the IRA. And that's more than has been announced in the last 4 years combined. So buckle up, my friend. Cleaning up Alberta's oil patch would cost $260 billion. Internal documents warn, and guess who's going to pay for that? Albertans. Although they'll probably get the feds, blame the feds for it for some reason. From the New York Times, Ukraine plans Eastern Europe's largest wind farm. You see, Ukraine going all in, as we said last week, on renewables because it's tough to blow up a wind farm. China needs $38 trillion in money to hit their climate goals early, but they're hitting their climate goals early. Their 2030 goals should be done early. Solar power investment to exceed oil for the first time, says the International Energy Agency chief. That's $1.7 trillion. This is not renewables altogether. This is just solar.
Just solar.
More money is going into just solar than all of the oil industry combined. And finally this week, it's a CES fast fact. The average cost overrun for new power plants are broken down as follows. Nuclear, 120% overrun, which is modest compared to some of the overruns we've talked about on the show. Hydro dams are 75% over. Fossil fuel generating stations are often 16%. Wind is 13%, which is kind of close and a little bit surprising. But solar is only 1%. So if you have a 1% average overrun in cost, where's the money going to flow? Who are the banks going to support? Where's investment going to just get sucked into? Everyone, that is our show for this week. We thank you for listening as always. Next week, Wales, hopefully. The United Kingdom. If Brian's plane flies safely and everything and he doesn't get food poisoning, or what else can happen to you? Who knows? Whales could attack you in Wales and try and tip your boat over or your plane. Then we'll have a repeat episode after that week. So please take the time to contact us, cleanenergyshow@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you. If you look at your show notes, the notes in your app, if you expand them, it's all there. Where to find us on Twitter, TikTok, YouTube, it's all there. You can even leave us a online voicemail message, which is our favorite thing. And don't forget to check out the YouTube channel because we have special features and a video version of the show. Check out the Clean Energy Store for an exciting t-shirt like the one Brian's wearing. Modeling, I would say. It looks good quality from here, honestly.
It's great.
I'm surprised. I have to order some for my family. If you're new to the show, please subscribe on your podcast app so you can see us every week. We'll see you next time.
See you next week.
From Wales.
You're a podcast listener, and this is a podcast ad heard only in Canada. Reach great Canadian listeners like yourself with podcast advertising from Libsyn Ads. Choose from hundreds of top podcasts offering host endorsements or run a pre-produced ad like this one across thousands of shows to reach your target audience with Libsyn Ads. Email bob@libsyn.com to learn more. That's bob@libsyn.com.